The chandelier lights above shimmered like stars trapped in glass, glittering over the ballroom of the Storm Foundation's annual charity gala. Music drifted softly from the orchestra, perfectly rehearsed, perfectly elegant, the kind of sound that made people forget the world outside wasn't always gentle. Everyone was dressed in luxury, silk gowns, tailored tuxedos, diamonds that seemed to hum under the lights. Cameras popped. Guests laughed behind champagne glasses. Nothing was out of place, and Ethan Cole felt like a misplaced puzzle piece in the middle of it all, that he wasn't supposed to be inside the ballroom. He was only a last-minute addition to the event team, hired as a transport driver and runner after someone else called in sick. 1 minute he'd been repairing things in his tiny apartment with his daughter humming in the background, and now he was standing among billionaires who wouldn't even look at him long enough to know he existed. He ran a hand over his slightly wrinkled shirt. He didn't own anything fancier, and tried to look like he belonged as he carried a tray of backup water bottles to the side of the room. He was a single dad, a former medic from a unit people had forgotten existed, now juggling 3 jobs and a daughter he'd die for. This world wasn't his, but he was here, and something in his gut kept telling him this night wasn't right. He paused to glance at the stage. At that exact moment, she walked out beneath the spotlight, Ariella Storm. The heiress. The woman half the world watched on magazine covers and business channels. Tonight she looked softer than her usual steel reputation. Her midnight blue gown shimmered with every step, her long hair cascading down her back like polished silk. She smiled politely, though something about it didn't reach her eyes. She stepped up to the microphone to announce a partnership for children's hospitals, something Ethan respected deeply. When it happened at first, Ethan thought the change was just nerves. Her smile flickered, her voice wavered. She swallowed hard and touched her throat, trying to steady herself. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, then Ariella's posture shifted, her body stiffening as her eyes widened. Not in surprise, but in fear. Ethan's breath caught, she stumbled backward. Her hand clutched her neck. Her lips parted but no sound came out as her face drained of color. Her body shook. Guests gasped, but instead of rushing forward, they backed away. No one wanted to be involved, not when cameras were everywhere. Not when anything could turn into a scandal. They didn't see what Ethan saw. A tiny metallic dart sticking out from the curve of her neck. Ethan's world snapped into focus in an instant, training he never wanted to use again roaring awake like a beast freed from chains. The toxin wasn't random. He recognized it immediately. The same lightweight paralysis agent he'd encountered once, only once, but its effects were unmistakable. Fast. Deadly. Designed to silence someone before they could even scream. He dropped the tray and sprinted. He heard shouts, "Security! Someone stop him! Who is that guy?" He didn't care. He pushed through the crowd as Ariella collapsed to her knees, clawing at her throat. Her stunned security froze for a second too long, unsure whether she was fainting, panicking, or something worse. Ethan reached her just as she lost control of her breathing, her eyelids fluttering. She tried to speak, but her lips only trembled. "Easy. I've got you," he whispered, already analyzing her condition. If it was the toxin he suspected, she had minutes. Maybe less. He pulled the dart out in one swift motion. Her pupils reacted slowly. Too slowly. Her breathing stuttered. The antidote in his pocket, something he carried ever since the incident that ended his medic career, wouldn't work fast enough if simply injected. The toxin entered through the bloodstream and attacked the lungs immediately. There was only one way to counteract it in time. One method he'd only used under battlefield emergency conditions. A direct mouth-to-mouth infusion of the neutralizing compound. Civilian med protocols didn't teach this. Most doctors didn't even know it existed. But Ethan had no choice. He slid one arm beneath her shoulders, supporting her as her head dropped forward onto his chest. Her lashes fluttered weakly. Her lips were losing color. She was seconds away from respiratory arrest. "Don't do this," he murmured urgently, steadying her face. "Stay with me." He could feel the judgment of the room burning into him. Phones were raised. Cameras clicking wildly. Voices whispering accusations. What is he doing? Oh my God, he's kissing her. Someone pull him off. But Ethan blocked all of it out. His voice dropped to a low, almost pleading whisper only she could hear. This will hurt, but it will save you. He leaned in, sealed his mouth over hers, and delivered the antidote in the only way that would absorb fast enough to stop the toxin. A shock ran through her body, a tremor of resistance, fear, confusion. Her fingers curled weakly into his shirt as the compound hit her bloodstream. Her breathing hitched, then slowly began to deepen. The tension in her shoulders softened. Color bled faintly back into her cheeks. Her eyelids lifted, revealing eyes glassy but conscious, staring up at him in disbelief. She breathed, shaky but real. He pulled back, relief flooding him, and instantly felt hands grabbing him from behind. Security tackled him, ripping him away from her so violently he almost hit the ground. Get off me, he fought back, twisting his shoulder to avoid being pinned. She was poisoned, check her neck. Shut up, one guard barked, but Ariella, trembling, lifted her hand toward them, still struggling for steady breath. Stop, her voice cracked. Let him go, he saved my life. The security team froze, the crowd fell silent. Ariella's hand hovered over her throat as she tried to gather herself. She touched the spot where the dart had been, then looked at Ethan as though trying to read his soul. You saw it, she whispered breathlessly. How did you know? Ethan swallowed hard. Her eyes were beautiful up close, sharp, intelligent, but filled with a flicker of fear she hid from everyone else. He didn't want to lie. He didn't want to explain too much either. That life was behind him. I recognized the toxin, he said quietly. There wasn't time to wait for medics. She stared at him as though trying to fit the pieces of him together, his plain clothes, his quiet voice, the steady calm he couldn't hide. She had been surrounded by wealthy allies, powerful board members, trained guards, but it was the ordinary man who stepped forward. A single dad wearing a $20 shirt. Ethan's heart pounded harder than it had while saving her. Not because he was afraid, but because of the weight of every camera lens pointed at him. He could already imagine what tomorrow's headlines would look like. Kiss at gala. Unknown man locks lips with Ariella Storm. Assault or hero. Ariella's breath steadied more with each passing second. She tried to stand, wobbling slightly. Ethan moved toward her instinctively before a guard blocked him, but she raised her hand. Let him, she whispered. The guard stepped aside reluctantly. Ethan caught her elbow gently, helping her to her feet. For a moment, they stood so close they were sharing the same air. The light softened around them, the noise dulled, and the entire ballroom felt unreal, as though it tilted on its axis because one woman nearly died and one man refused to let her. Her voice was soft, fragile yet strong beneath it. You saved me, she said. You actually saved my life. Anyone would have done the same, he murmured. She shook her head faintly. No, nobody moved. And they both knew she was right. She reached toward his face, her fingers hovering just shy of touching his cheek, as though still shocked he was real. What's your name? She asked in a breath. Ethan Cole. Ethan, she repeated softly, as if memorizing it. Why were you even here tonight? Working, he said. Just helping out. Her eyes softened further. You weren't supposed to be anywhere near the stage. I know. So why did you run toward me? He opened his mouth, then closed it. He didn't know how to explain instinct, training, trauma, or the truth that he had seen too many people die to ever stand still again. Instead, he simply said the most honest thing he could. I couldn't watch you fall. Her breath caught, not from the toxin, but something else. Something that made her stare at him like he was a mystery she suddenly needed to solve. Before she could reply, chaos erupted behind them, security yelling orders, paramedics pushing through, guests crowding for gossip and photos. She was swept away toward medical evaluation. Ethan stood off to the side, alone again, unnoticed except for the occasional glare from someone who thought he'd crossed a line. His hand still trembled slightly. The ghost of her touch still lingered in his memory. A guard approached him. You'll need to come with us. Statement. Protocol. He didn't argue. As he followed them out of the ballroom, Ethan glanced back. Ariella was sitting on a stretcher, refusing oxygen, brushing off the fuss around her. But her eyes found him, across the distance, across the crowd, not angry, not confused, grateful, and something else, something he couldn't name. For one suspended moment, the world stilled as they held each other's gaze. Then Ethan was pulled around the corner and out of sight. He didn't know it yet. He didn't know everything in his life had just changed in the span of a heartbeat. He didn't know powerful men had already seen his face and were whispering his name with unease. He didn't know he had just stepped into a storm he wasn't prepared for. All he knew was this: tonight, he